Yeah, you request, please.
Request.
Yes, I just requested.
Can you, David, if it doesn't work out, I will send you a new
Yes.
link just now.
Yeah, now it's working.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great. So let me
Thank you,
just
Sir Moderator.
no, that's okay. So let me just find the application. Sorry, give me a second because it's asking me.
Make sure you can share.
Okay.
Let me know.
Yeah, I need to give on my computer sharing rights to Zoom.
Okay.
So before we start fully,
Yeah, sorry, it asked me to go out and re-enter. I'll be back in a second.
Okay, thank you, my friend. Jose, how are you? Can you hear us? Josie, can you hear us?
maybe she's talking with her.
Well, she's not there.
Hello, yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. David, we can see your screen now, my friend.
Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay, you can see the screen, right? That's good.
Yes.
David, are you there? Who's sharing?
No, it's one.
Is David there? Okay. But we can't hear him.
Maybe it's muted.
Yes, I am here. The microphone somehow got muted.
Okay, thank you, my friend.
I guess you can see the screen and you
Yes,
can
we can.
also hear me.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Great.
Can you go back to your home screen, man? I like your slides. So you are really good in communication. Can you go back to your home screen? Like the first page, the title
Yeah.
page.
This one.
So the title, the first one, there was one where go back.
Science is not finished. Science is not finished slide, right?
No, I think it's first page.
The first slides.
Yeah, it says science is not
Yeah, this
finished.
is my first slide. The blue one where it's written science is not finished until it's communicated.
Yeah, go
Okay.
back to that slide.
Yeah, that what is on the screen is not that one.
Ah, okay.
It's why you should science is not finished
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Science is not finished until it's communicated. Very, very important. I really love that message. Can you put on slide mode, my friend? Put on slide mode. This is very important. At the top of the screen, you can put play or slide mode. Science is not finished until it's communicated. Wow, I love this term, my friend.
I'm glad of it.
I love
So,
it. Yeah.
if you can see my slide, I can also go on like this. If you see them well, otherwise you can put them full screen. Like this.
Put them full screen. Put them full screen, my friend. Yeah, I like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, good.
It's so bad that science is not finished. Yeah, I love this.
So yeah, as I am glad that you like this sentence. Unfortunately, it's not mine, but I'll get to that in a minute. As I was very kindly presented, my name is Davide Montesarchio. I am a journalist and science communicator at the VPH Society. And by the end of this presentation, I will also go through an explanation of what is VPH Society and what we do, and also some connections we might have. So, first of all, I would like to provide you some examples on why you should communicate science and also why not. The very first reason I would like to give you as why you should be communicating science is if you became a scientist because of one of those people, amazing people, or any other scientist who communicated science. In my case, for instance, on the bottom right, there is Piero Angela. He is the reason for why I became a scientist in first place. He was not a scientist, but he was a great science communicator, and I grew up watching his TV program called Super Quark. I remember that I was a child, and I was always asking my parents to watch Super Quark because to me it was amazing. So if you became a scientist because one of those people or a similar example, then congratulations, because you are the pinnacle outcome that science communication can have. Because think about this, you are probably a child or a teenager, you hear, read, or listen to a scientist doing communication activities. And so in first place, you learn something, but the most important thing is that you became curious. And then that curiosity is a seed that grew up and flourished until you now are creating new knowledge. So one very good reason for communicating science is because you became scientist because of a communication activity, and you can give it forward. You can inspire future generations to become scientists as well. And I think it's an amazing reason for doing communication well. Another reason for communicating science is, well, the title of this talk, Science is not finished until it's communicated. This sentence is by Sir Mark Wolpert, UK Chief Scientific Advisor and Chief Executive of the UK Research and Innovation. This sentence, in my opinion, is true on different levels. It's true because you have not finished doing science if you don't communicate to your peers through scholarly communication, through research papers. But also, science becomes truly relevant when it has an effect on the society, when it brings progress to society. And the first step to bring progress is actually communicating your science. So this is another reason for communicating science. Another reason again, most of science is publicly funded, at least in Europe. And so all your stipend, lab, your trip to conference, your conference fees, everything is paid by taxpayers. Before I told you that you can give it forward, but by doing science communication, you can give it back to the people who are funding your science, who are trusting you as a scientist. Another reason, again, this is a little more selfish. So by doing science communication, you can have a direct positive impact on your career, because it has been proved, and it is actually a big research field at the moment, that if your science gets to the wider public, let's say on newspapers, then your articles are going to be more cited. And this has been proved for the first time to me in an incredible natural experiment. It happened in 1978 that the journalists of the New York Times went on a huge strike, especially for the US society. They went on a strike for 3 consecutive months. Years later, some scholars thought that this could be a very interesting natural experiment. And so they started to look at the scientific citations of the research articles that were mentioned in the New York Times. And they realized that before the strike, similar articles had different citations. So the articles in the same field and similar authors that were cited in the New York Times received more scientific citation than the articles that were not. Then it came the strike, and this difference became known. It was not existing anymore. All the scientific papers received the same amount of citation. When the strike terminated and the New York Times restarted publishing and mentioning scientific studies, again, the studies that were mentioned in the New York Times received more citation. More citation it can have a great impact on your career. So this is another reason, a little more selfish, but it's another very good reason for communicating science. Then I also have one reason for not
Are you sharing?
communicating
Is
science.
your screen moving? Your screen is not moving.
Can you see?
It's not. We can see just the first screen.
Test screen?
We can see just the title. Science. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay.
We cannot see this one. Yeah. We were
Okay,
not
okay.
seeing it as we were moving.
I will continue like this if it works better.
Yeah, yeah, this works better. I'm wondering on your Zoom at the bottom, there's always that full screen without playing. Can you do? Is it possible? You know how on Zoom at the bottom when you share your screen, there's
Yeah.
always that. Is it possible to make it full screen? Oh, is the play one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Continue. Move to the next slide or move back. Or let me see if you can go back. Can you move back and forth? Let me see.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's moving now. Good. I like this article. Wow, I missed all of this. Can you imagine? David, it's not fair that you show all these nice articles and I did not see them.
Can you see
Yeah.
them now?
Yeah, I can see them now perfectly well.
Okay, okay. Then I'm sorry that you could not see them on my screen. I will leave it like this and not make it full screen because it appears that it has some issues when I put it full screen.
Okay, good. I love this.
So these are some of the articles that I shared, and as I said before, I will share my slides with all of you. So these are just a few examples of why by doing science communication you can have a positive impact. It has been extensively studied in literature that successful science communication activities actually lead to more citation to your research paper. This was Mark Wolpert, and these are the science communicator. I believe you saw them before.
No, I'm going to learn from you. I'm going to be read about them now, actually.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So back to this. One, but this is more of a joke, one good reason for not communicating science. So at least the way it works in Europe, when you have big research grant funded by the European Union, there must be a unit dedicated to communication. Normally you have a work package that is either the first or the last that is dedicated to management and then communication and dissemination. And in that case, you have professionals like me doing the science communication. But for smaller grants, and this happens, for instance, in Italy, when you are publicly funded, you have to do science communication, but at the same time, you're not provided dedicated funds. So basically, you are on your own. But if you want to pursue your career, every certain amount of years, you need to show that you have been a good scientist. So how many papers you published, how many times they were cited. You have to prove that you have been a good teacher and also that you have been a good communicator. But since professors and scientists in Italy are left on their own, they have not many resources also to learn about science communication. So in this sense, I've seen many of them doing all their best effort to communicate science at their best, but also others that basically were communicating science just to fill up a paper. And that, I have to say, made me feel some kind of pain, because that instead of shortening the distance between science and society, it actually made it wider. So this is, as I said, kind of a joke. If you do it just for filling up a paper, please don't. Then let's go more into business. The very, very first step when you want to do any kind of communication activity, not only science, is to know your audience. When I was a scientist before studying science communication, I was already doing some science communication activities, and I was also always starting from the message. I want to communicate this. Let's see what's the best way to communicate this concept. Then I learned that I was deeply wrong, because that is not your first step. That is actually the last step. The very first step is to know your audience. So you have to study who you want to communicate to. Here's an example. These are all the Simpsons characters. So you can see at the top center, there are a couple of aliens, another one on the bottom left, and they actually speak a different language from all the other characters. They have different ideas, different political and societal beliefs. And so all the other characters, you can group those characters in bubbles, especially in social media studies. This is a very common term, the use of bubbles. So you have groups of people that are within the same bubble. Within the same bubble, they are kind of homogeneous. So you have people who speak the same language. They have similar ideas about the world. They have similar societal and political beliefs. So they see the world in a certain way. If you move to another bubble, you may find people that speak a different language. They have different manners. They see the world differently. And you cannot communicate to multiple bubbles with the same effectiveness and with the same message. It just doesn't work. So you have to tailor to the specific bubble you want to target. So you pick a bubble, you study that bubble, you study who is in that bubble, and then you learn and you know how to get into that bubble and communicate to that people. In this sense, in communication, not only science communication, there is this very interesting exercise. It's called personas. So basically, you create from scratch the profile of a person you want to communicate to. Here I made 4 examples. Let's say that we want to communicate about the field I work in silico medicine, but you may also call it computational medicine, AI in healthcare, computer modeling and simulation. It has many different definitions, but they are very, very close to each other as fields. So let's say we want to communicate something about in silico medicine. And we have different kind of targets. So the first type of target is Joanne. I just made her up from scratch. Joanne, I suppose that she's 42. She's a professor in biomedical engineering in the field of in silico medicine. Her favorite social media is LinkedIn. Her favorite news outlet is The Economist. She has a proficiency in silico medicine that is very high, and of course, a very high interest. Then let's pass to target number 2. We have Youssef. Youssef is 56. He's also a university professor. So mind that the study level does not tell you all, because both of them are university professor. But Joanne is a professor in biomedical engineering. Youssef is a professor in medieval literature. So they have a very different proficiency in the field. Youssef likes to get news from social media. He listens from podcasts, sorry. His favorite social media is X. He has a very low proficiency. He's a professor in medieval literature. He doesn't know much of in silico medicine, but he's a very curious person. He likes to navigate in different fields. Then we have 2 more targets. We have Maria. She is 23. She's a med student. Her favorite social media are Instagram and TikTok. She likes to get news from social media. She has a medium proficiency in silico medicine. She has had some courses during her university that were mentioning in silico medicine. And she thinks if one day she may make a diagnosis with the help of AI. So therefore, she's curious about this topic. And then we have Sven. Sven is 67. He's a construction worker. He's very tired. He's like at the edge of retirement. His favorite social media is Facebook. He gets news only from TV. He has a very low proficiency in silico medicine and interest. He does not care. This is another important thing. When you start communicating, you should not neglect the publics that do not care, or even they can be opposite to you. If you think, for instance, about GMOs or nuclear energy, there are publics, there are audiences who oppose those technology. That partially happens also the same with AI. So you need to keep in mind that those kind of audiences, they exist. So, and they have a certain characteristics. So if you want to communicate to them, you need to know where to find them. So now I made the 4 personas. So let's say I have 4 different bubbles. So how do I communicate within those bubbles? For instance, if I want to communicate to Maria, she likes to get her news from social media. So I can use social media. Since she likes Instagram and TikTok, I need to have, now I have the framework of my communication because she likes image-based social media like Instagram and TikTok. That means that the text has less relevance and the image or the graphics have more relevance. So I need to focus on that. Or, for instance, if I want to communicate to Joanne, her favorite social media is LinkedIn. So I can use both image and text. Or she reads The Economist. I can go to The Economist through a press release. Or if I want to communicate to yourself, I need to use a podcast. So you see, the different publics gets news or information from different media. So if you know your target, you know the media. If you know the media, then you know how to shape your communication. What are your boundaries? You know if you need to focus on your voice, if you need to focus on images, if you need to focus on text. This is an article that is freely available on Medium that explains very nicely the fact that actually the general public doesn't exist. Normally, what I do every time I start a new collaboration about science communication, the very first question I ask is who you want to communicate to. If the answer is to the general public or to everyone, then I know that I'm speaking to someone who has a little to no knowledge in science communication or in communication in general. If the answer is yes, I want to communicate to this kind of public, then I know that I'm speaking to someone who is knowledgeable. So now that we define the publics and how to reach those publics, we can see how to really engage with them. Actually, there are 2 main ways, a mediated approach and a direct approach. We will see both of them. In the mediated approach, you will pass through an institutional science communicator and possibly a journalist. In a direct approach, you do it on your own, you directly speak to your public. So in the mediate approach, let's suppose that you engage with your institutional science communicator. I believe that, for instance, the University of Toronto has a communication office. So you have a very important paper that is relevant for the society coming out, and you want to engage with your institutional science communicator. So then the institutional science communicator can issue a press release, and that news can get to newspapers and so to the society. In this sense, a very important thing to keep in mind is the information life cycle. This has been, for me as a science communicator, the point where most of the information were stopping, because the scientist, the institutional science communicator, and the journalist work with a very different clock. So here I made 3 different cases: Karen, who is a scientist, Joanne, who is an institutional science communicator, and Colin, who is a journalist. So for Karen, the scientist, from the planning of the experiment to the publication of the research article, in between, there are typically months or even years. So her information life cycles revolves around months and years. For Joanne, the institutional science communicator, from when she receives your research paper to disseminate to when she sends out the press release, it is a matter of days or weeks, depending on how many things there are connected to the press release. And then Colin, as a journalist, to survive, has to produce many articles per day. So from when Colin receives the press release to when the article is on, let's say, the website of your local newspaper, it's a matter of hours. or days. So I tell you this out of my direct experience. It happened to me in my very first job as science communicator. It was at a synchrotron in Trieste, a particle accelerator. During my first week there, what I did was to go to the particle accelerator, and speak to every scientist who was there, presenting myself, telling that I was the new science communicator, that I would love to talk about their science, their upcoming papers, and if they had anything new coming out, to please send me an email or drop by my office and talk about how to communicate that research. What really happened is that for months, no one showed up. Then in the same week, a few of them dropped by my office within the same week with the same request. They had a professional assessment, so they had to show up the quality of their research, the quality of their teaching, and the quality of their communication activities. For years, they were neglecting the communication activities, so they were under deadline, and they came to me asking to do something about science communication because they had to fill up a paper. And actually, that was their only interest for doing communication. But it was good that there was a science communicator that they could refer to. So my first question was, okay, great, tell me about your recent publications. And one of them told me, I have this great piece of science. I'm so proud of it. It's my best work since years. They said, okay, when this paper is going to be published? The answer was, well, it has already been published. Then I started sweating a bit, and I asked a question that I feared to ask. That was, okay, when that paper was published? And the answer was 8 months ago. So I had to explain to that gentleman that how do I, as an institutional science communicator, convince Colin, a journalist, that a scientific paper that was published 8 months ago and no one talked about it for 8 months, how do I convince Colin to have an article about that paper on tomorrow's newspaper? Of course, it's very difficult because Colin will reply me, yeah, well, if you never showed up in the past 8 months, why should I care now? And this is where a lot of communication between scientists and the society stop, because they start too late. The communication activity starts when the paper is already out. And journalists, and I can tell you out of direct experience, journalists that work on a newspaper, they receive every day dozens and dozens of press releases. They receive them so much that basically they pick what they like the most. They pick the most recent one. So if a paper is 1 week old, it's like to tell Colin that you have a paper that is ages old, because he receives so many press releases. So that's why it's very important to move in the right moment. So this is a possible way. So when you do in general, I suggest you to always get in touch and manage your relationship with your institutional science communicator. That is going to be worth for your work, for your communication, for your career. But in general, a very good moment to start sending your paper to your institutional science communicator is during the review. Many times when I've been speaking with scientists, their typical reply was that, yeah, but it's under review, things may change. Yes, of course, things may change, things will change, but apples will not turn into watermelons. Apples will stay apples. From two, they can become three, but they will still stay apples. This is important to move in this moment, because if you give your research paper that is still under review to your institutional science communicator, then you first are giving value to that person's work. You let that person the time to study your paper, to ask you questions, to produce materials, for instance, to pass by your lab and take pictures, take a video of an interview, all those things take time. So if you do it beforehand, then for when the paper will be ready for publication, everything is in place and your institutional science communicator can send a press release to journalists either on the same day of the publication, that is very good, or even better, can send you earlier. Don't worry about being scooped because every journalist that is worth this name knows about embargo time. So the institutional science communicator can send a press release with an embargo time saying, look, I give you this, so I leave you time to study the press release, to pass by the lab and realize an interview and so on, or to produce a long form article because they take longer. But then you do not publish anything before that date. Or you can say, I give you the material, but you can publish only when I tell you that the paper is public. So don't worry about being scooped. If you do like this, I guarantee you that, especially for the institutional science communicator, you will have a lifetime friend because it happens rarely. And when it happened to me, I really loved the scientists who did that. And of course, they had a preferential way to me because they gave value to me and I gave value to their work. Then, even if, let's suppose that everything was done right, on time, ahead, it was great. Your research paper doesn't end in newspaper. Don't get frustrated, don't get offended. It's life. There are many reasons. It's not necessarily the fault of the science communicator, not the fault of a journalist. There are many reasons. And those reasons are the newsworthiness criteria. This is something that every journalist knows. So basically, there are some criteria that can define what is newsworthy and what's not. So of course, for you as a scientist, every paper of yours, it has the maximum newsworthiness. But for the rest of the society, it's not necessarily the same. So I will share with you now some of the newsworthiness criteria that can help you also to better focus on what's better to push more or what's not really worth to push and leave space for another article that is worth with a greater push. So the first newsworthiness criteria is timing, and I just explained it. If you come earlier, very good. If you come 8 months late, there are very, very little chances that it's going to be published. It happened to me a couple of times to succeed in having a couple of 2 or 3 news articles published about very old research papers, but I have to admit there was a big share of luck in that. Then there is a hierarchy and also about numbers of people involved. I'll tell you a story that was told me when I was studying science communication. The story was how many people need to go to hospital in, let's say, Sydney to have it on the news here in Italy or there in Toronto, in your local newspaper. If it's going to be one person, most probably is not going to end up in your local newspaper. But if it's 100, well, chances are that it's going to be there because it's an incredible amount of people for a bike accident that end up in a hospital. So it's something very unusual. So it's going to be in the news. If a lot of people are involved, then it is newsworthy. A hierarchy, for instance. If it is just one person, and let's suppose that person is Italy's prime minister, of course, this is going to be in the news because the prime minister had a bike crash and ended up in the hospital. So a hierarchy is another criteria. Future developments. Here, let's suppose that pops out a research paper about a very early stage research about a vaccine that can prevent any kind of cancer. We all know that it's basically impossible, and it's very, very early on experiment, so very far from application. But since it has a dramatic future development, this is going to be newsworthy. Curiosity, something very unusual. As I said before, 100 people who had a bike crash on the other side of the world and end up in a hospital, this will be newsworthy where you are. Then process, let's suppose an incredible experiment. Let's suppose that right now the International Space Station is sending up a laser beam through the atmosphere, through the roof of the University of Toronto, that then hits one of your computers, that then becomes super powerful and can compute like all the supercomputers in the world combined. You do nothing with that, but that's an incredible experiment that is going to be newsworthy, whatever you do with it. Then brevity. If you can explain it in one sentence, it is more newsworthy. This is also why mathematics rarely find its way on newspapers, because with mathematics, it happens more often that just to get to the core of the outcome, you need very long prior explanations. So it's very difficult to synthesize the outcome of a research paper in mathematics in just one sentence. Then visuals. Again, as I said before, if you get to your institutional science communicator early on, you give him or her time to work on the visuals. And visuals nowadays with the internet are very important. A press release with visuals has more chances of success than a press release without. Then proximity. If something, of course, happens close to you, it's going to be mentioned in your local newspaper. If something is happening far, it has to be something very big to be mentioned in your local newspaper. And then the context or the waves, and this is the worst one, because you can do all your best, you do everything at your best, and still doesn't work. This doesn't work because you are in, let's say, the wrong wave, and there is nothing to do about that. For instance, now you're lucky. Now all of us are living in the AI wave. Now everything about AI is newsworthy. You pick any random newspaper, and chances are that you will find one article or two that are mentioning AI. 10, 15 years ago, it was biotechnology. So 10, 15 years ago, no one would have cared that much about AI. And everyone was still talking about biotechnology. Now it's the other way around. Then let's go to direct communication. As for direct communication, you can do it in many ways. You can do videos, you can do podcasts, you can write articles. So my very honest suggestion is to be aware of videos, because videos are very tricky. At the beginning of YouTube, let's say 2007, 2010, the average quality on YouTube was quite low. So it was rather easy to match the average quality. But now the average quality on YouTube is super high. It's cinematic. So if you want to go on with a video, you're welcome, but you need to know that you need to match a very high quality. That means that you need to have a very high-end camera, a very high-end lights, microphone, background. You need to know how to use them. That is not common. You need to know how to edit videos. So that's why every time someone tells me that wants to produce videos, I tend to not to discourage, but to say, like, keep in mind that it's not an easy word. You really need to have an interest and the time, a lot of time to dedicate to this. An easier way is podcast. I do produce podcasts since many years. I leave you some examples of science podcasts. By taking a look around, I didn't find that many podcasts realized by scientists. One of them is Star Talk by Neil deGrasse Tyson. You might guess that I kind of love him. And this is a great podcast. And especially to me, the format of this podcast is genius, because Neil deGrasse Tyson is a good scientist, he's a very good science communicator. And in principle, he has the ability to run the podcast alone, but he doesn't. He has as a co-host Chuck Nice, who is a comedian. And So he has the ability, but he choose to have a comedian next to him that basically gives the reliefs moment, so people can have a low, they can have a light moment during the podcast. And also he has the questions that the public might have, and this is genius. And so the whole thing is super engaging. It's very engaging. It's very difficult to get annoyed or bored by listening to Star Talk. There are a lot of other podcasts about science out there. Most of them are made by science communicators. My advice here, and it's something that I listen in many English language podcasts, is to avoid what I call the 15-minute phone call. Because a lot of podcasts, they sound like a 15-minute phone call. The sound quality is not very high, but I mean, it's not difficult to reach a sound quality. Microphones are very cheap. For 50 euros, you can have already a good microphone, for instance, and you can attach it right to your computer or to your mobile phone. So all those podcasts that I was saying, that they sound like a 50-minute phone call. And also the other thing to avoid is to have like, I ask a question and then the guest speaks for 20 minutes uninterrupted. Then I have another question and other 20 minutes of talk. That sounds like a conference. But if you are in a podcast, you are not in a conference. So you might have people who just stumble upon your podcast. And if you do it this way, chances are that people will not get to the end of the podcast. So either in the recording or in the editing, you try to add some rhythm to the podcast. So if the answer gets too long and you feel that the rhythm is going down, you can ask a question. Or you can, in the editing, you can split the answer in two and put a question in the middle. So this is very important, to keep a rhythm, to have a change of both rhythm and voice in the podcast, to keep the attention high. Then another way of doing communication directly is through social media. It's the easiest way. These are some profiles of people who do science communication on social media. They are scientists as well. For instance, Stina, I met her directly at the European Parliament in an event for science journalists, and she does a format that is very common in this sense, and I think it works pretty nicely. So when she or others produce a video, they do not start by saying, oh yeah, this is my research, these are my outcomes, this is the knowledge that I produce. They start from their everyday life, because basically the very underneath reason for why people are on social media is to look at other people's lives. So you start with your life. So an example could be, you start saying like, yeah, I just got at the University of Toronto, I'm having a coffee here at the cafeteria, look how nice the University of Toronto is. Then I walk to my lab, then I sit at my bench or at my computer, and now I tell you about the research. So you need to have a hook that starts from your real life experience. And you can share, for instance, something very nice that happened. Your paper has been accepted, or you have been admitted to a conference, or you went to a conference and you have the chance to meet your lifetime hero scientist and you get to talk to him or her. This is a very good point to start from. Start from you as a person, because on social media, what counts is you as a person, then the science and all the rest. Then, now I'll get to the communication activities that we do at BPH Society. First of all, I will tell you briefly what BPH is. BPH is the Society for In Silico Medicine. We are an international community of scientists with a mission to advance in silico medicine, or AI in healthcare, or computer modeling and simulation, the way you prefer, worldwide. As an ecosystem organization, we bring together all the scientists in the field, and we bridge the scientific part with all the relevant stakeholders. For instance, we bridge them with the industry, we bridge them with healthcare providers, with hospital, with clinicians, with patients, and we care a lot about this, with regulators, with policymakers. So we bridge scientists to all the other parts of the society that are relevant to bring your science to the people, to the patients, finally. So to do that, we move on in different ways. We work on the policy side, we work on the regulation side to monitor what are the most recent policies or regulations. And we move also in the communication and stakeholder engagement side. So for communication, you may remember about Sven, Maria, and Youssef from the previous example. This is to show you how we tailored our communication. So we wanted to communicate with people without prior knowledge in silico medicine. That was our goal. So how do we do that? We study the profile of the people we want to communicate to. Okay, how we can engage with these people. So we want to communicate in silico medicine that basically in Europe before no one heard about it before. So in general, the proficiency level is very low. So we need to start from scratch to people who at the moment are not interested because they don't know. And we need sort of to convince them to get to the end. So how do we do that? We make a video because the video is more engaging than a paper. Then we are speaking with people with no prior interest. That means the video has to be short. This is a series of 10 videos that is available on YouTube. It's called Code and Cure, Understanding in Silico Medicine. And the longest video in the pool is less than 2 minutes. So we worked very hard to have that every video lasts less than 2 minutes, because already 2 minutes is a lot for a person who has no prior interest. Then what we did was to have the language that is very easy, because we are not speaking to scientists. So no jargon, very easy explanations with real life examples. So, and all these videos, they go from what is in silico medicine, what is artificial intelligence in healthcare, what about data privacy, what are the applications of in silico medicine in cardiac diseases. So starting always from a real life example. If you see the video, all of them start from a real life. Then another thing, I personally take care of all these kind of activities. Another example, you can see your professor there. There is the podcast. Our last episode is with Professor Jude Kong, and I have to say that I really enjoyed producing this episode. So the podcast, who do we produce this podcast for? We produce it for people who are either curious or have a prior interest. That's why now we have Maria, Youssef, and the Joanne, because she has a prior interest. She works in the field. And since there are scientists speaking, the people we are producing this for is either someone who is already interested and knowledgeable or someone that is very curious. So those are the two types of public that we are targeting with this. And in this case, the podcast is tailored to be less than 30 minutes. Sometimes we go beyond 30 minutes, but this happens only if we have a guest that speaks a lot, of course, and is capable naturally to keep rhythm and engagement. So all in those cases, I keep the episode that goes beyond 30 minutes, unless I'll keep it shorter. So ideally, I keep it around 20 minutes. But if the guest is capable of keeping the attention and keeping a nice rhythm, then we admit it longer. Another thing that
David, you make me look really good. Is it live already?
Sorry?
You make me look really good, my friend. Is it live?
Yeah. Because I mean that interview, it was great to me. I really enjoyed it, and I think it was a great piece of a podcast.
That's my good friend. You're amazing.
And then another thing that we produce and I take care directly is the success stories. We now call them in the spotlight. So basically with this article, we want to bridge between science and society. So what I do when I write these articles is to check a topic that is relevant for society. For instance, this article, Beyond the Black Box, is about some skepticism by clinicians who have difficulties in trusting AI models because they think, okay, that is a black box. I don't know what's happening in there. I don't know why it's giving me that answer. So this article is about the sort of problem of the black box and how we can solve this issue. So bridging between different stakeholders. In that case, was bridging between scientists and clinicians. Or this month's article is about the gender imbalance in healthcare. The fact that in clinical trials, there are many more men than women. And women, especially, for instance, in cardiac diseases, tend to have many more misdiagnoses or negative effects from drugs. For instance, the typical infarction symptom for a man is a chest pain, but for women it's not. For women it's different. For women it's stomachache, it's nausea, it's different. And they more often get misdiagnosed at the ER. So this is something that in silico medicine or AI in healthcare can help balance, can bring finally after, I don't know, centuries of healthcare, they can bring balance between men and women. So again, in this article, bridging between science and society. Then this is another thing that I was really looking forward to tell you because I think you have a lot to say on this topic. This InfoKit we released 1 year ago. So the idea of this InfoKit was to provide scientists with all the necessary means to communicate to other stakeholders, and especially clinicians, policymakers, and more than the others, patients. So our idea was, if, let's suppose, one of you today decides to engage with patients that may use your technologies. Our goal was, if you now decide to do this kind of activity, you need to be able to send the first email by tomorrow noon. So to reach this target, what we did was to pack with this manual that is freely available on Zenodo. You can check with the QR code. And it's freely downloadable, of course, to give you all the things you might need. And there is, for instance, how to make, let's say, a Delphi survey, or how to make a focus group with patients to listen to your patients. What do they think about AI to be applied for their condition? So in order to have that, you have, for instance, for a focus group, there are all the focus cards in different languages, editable. So you just need to edit the text inside and you can send it and use it the day after. There are also the templates for the email. So if you want to send an email for a patient advocacy group or firm, there is a template for the email. You can adapt that template and send the email right away. So the idea behind this product is to leave 20 Science no reason for not engaging with other stakeholders. And especially, we want this document to be a living document. So we welcome any contribution by whoever has been involved in engaging with different sectors of the society, whether they be policymakers or patients or society at large for communication purposes. So I believe you have a lot to say in this topic, and we welcome every contribution. So whoever wants to suggest their experience, their materials, their methods, you can send it to us. We are going to include it in the InfoKit, of course, with all the relevant mentions, and publish a new version that is available for everyone in the world. Now I'm getting to the end of this talk. Just a few last information about the VPH conference. As VPH, we organize a conference every 2 years, and 2026 is our conference here. So this year, the conference will be at the beginning of September in Milan, at Politecnico di Milano. Currently, the abstract submission is open. You can see here all the different topics that are included, and AI is included as well. And the abstract submission is open until the 2nd of March 2026. So there is 1 month more, 1 month ahead to submit your contribution for either a talk or a poster. For members of, for VPH members, there is a discount. And we also have a membership that is designed for PhD students. It's the student membership. It costs just €10 per year. And the student member, if they have a paper, an abstract that is admitted to the conference, they can apply to receive some awards that basically is not only a piece of paper, that they also give you. For instance, we have the travel award that give you €500 to travel to the conference, and also the best student award that is another €500 if you as a student had the best presentation among the students. So we warmly welcome to check the website of the conference, also because I would really love to see and meet you in person there in Milan. Again, just as a yeah, that would be great. And last but not least, here this is the website of our society, vph-society.org. We are open for scientific collaboration. We welcome any new member. We have different kind of membership that goes from student to personal. We have lab-wise or institution-wise membership, where, for instance, if an institution signs up, then all the members of the institution automatically are VPH members. If you are a VPH member, you also have access to the Avicenna Alliance, that is our counterpart for industry. And with the Keep in Touch, there is a possibility to subscribe to our newsletter. This is free and open for all. So you can be updated to all our activities. So with this, I'm done, and I would love to answer to any question you might have.
Okay, David, thank you for your presentation. And as you can see, science communication is important. So irrespective of if you have a good paper, or if you cannot communicate it to audience, it won't go that far. So as one of my favorite sentences we say, Albert Einstein say, you cannot communicate it to a 6-year-old, that means you don't know it yourself. I love that. So if you can't communicate your research output to some specific audiences, like maybe kids, conferences, podcasts, so if you cannot communicate it clearly, that means something is lacking. And also, you make mention of something I like. Timing is important. So you might have a good paper, a good result, something revolutionary that can change the world. But if you don't communicate it, or people don't see it, it's just going to be there until maybe someone stop upon it and like, oh yeah, this is good. We can make use of this sometime. So yeah, that's all I have to say now. If you have question for David, please, the floor is yours. You have any question? Okay. Dr. Gilman?
Thank you, David. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the very thought-provoking presentation. I like it. First, I want to ask if can you share the materials with us? That's the first question. And the other question that I have is, can you talk a little bit about the info kits that you were talking about? That's my first question. The second question is, here at AIMM Lab this year, our director, Professor Kong, asked us to run some science communication activities as postdocs to expose our research to the public. And we are thinking of doing, virtual online kind of activity, such as webinars, maybe inviting people who are doing some cool stuff in our area and learning from them, and also uh, through doing that to expose ourselves to the general public. What do you suggest is, the best approach to do webinar, like not traditional way of doing webinar, but if you have a good suggestion of, do it this way, do it that way, I would be happy to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you. Very great presentation.
Great. Thanks a lot. And thanks a lot for your question. I will start from the last one. Actually, the first one for the materials, yes, I will share the materials with all of you. I would love to. So I will send right after an email to Professor Kong with the presentation. And I would love that to be shared among everyone you will. And again, that's an honor for me. So about the webinar. So it depends who you want to target, because if you want to target people who are already acquainted with webinars, then you can reach them. But normally, and this is a double-edged sword, because webinars are very, very nice, but of course you cannot target people who are not used to listen to webinars. For instance, right now, my parents are connected and they are listening to a webinar because I am presenting. But normally in their everyday life, they never connected to a webinar. So in this sense, you need to think who you want to target. So if you want to target an audience that is used to listen, to follow webinars, then I will tell you, yes, go on, because they're very nice. You can connect people very long distance. But if you want to target people who are not acquainted with, for instance, AI in healthcare or webinars, they are outside the research community, then in that case, what I would suggest you is to go live. So, and never underestimate the power of live events. They are very powerful. Nowadays, with the internet, we are tending to neglect. Every time I've been doing a live activity, that was first incredibly enriching to me. Like I really felt good after doing it. You talk to the people, you meet the people, you are sharing the same space, the same air, and then it's very enriching for you and the people listening. And live, you can reach targets that with webinars you cannot reach. So depending who you want to target. If you want to target, let's say, the so-called general public, even though it's not general, I would suggest you to find occasions and there are also international occasions like the Pint of Science. Pint of Science, I think, is in May, and it happens all around the world. I've done it twice in Italy. Basically, there are bars and pubs all around the world, especially in big cities. So I believe for sure there will be at least one in Toronto. And I think they are now in this period in the organization phase. So you can check on the website pintofscience.org, and there you can see which bars and pubs are organizing an event. Normally they are in the evening, and it's to me, when I did it, and I did it twice, to me it was amazing because I was there in a pub. There were beers, so people there chilling out, having a beer and discussing about science. And you tell your science, and you are normally invited there as a scientist. I've done it twice, not as a scientist, as a science communicator. Again, I've been lucky because the organizer liked my proposal a lot. So they admitted me, also, even though I was not a scientist anymore. But that, for instance, is a great occasion. So if you want to do it, for instance, you don't have the budget, you don't know where to do it, things like Pint of Science are a great way to begin with. So you start to feel the public, to engage with the public, to answer questions. Then when you got a bit more experience, or if you have dedicated funding, you can go for a live event that is dedicated. For instance, a couple of years ago, for a European project called EDIT that BPH was involved in, we did our last meeting in Amsterdam, and with the budget of the project, we organized a live event in the center of Amsterdam. And there was me and my director, Liz Garris, who were talking about science to real people and to people that we could not find on a webinar. And the other question, if I'm not wrong, was about the info kit. As I said before, yes, the info kit is freely available. What we look for is that the highest amount of people, especially scientists, go through it. You can find there are different sections. You can find both stakeholder engagement activities and communication activities. There are some of the things that I also explained during my talk. And as I said before, there are very hands-on examples. The idea is to make it really practical. So if you want to, let's say, engage with the neighborhoods where the University of Toronto is located, so you realize a focus group. So you invite common people to the focus group, and you ask them questions and you listen to their opinions. You have different cards where they, for instance, do you think that AI in healthcare is a menace to privacy? I'm just inventing an example. And they can write in those cards, no, I don't think not. I think it's fully safe. Or no, I am afraid of privacy. So you can listen to people and then bring that experience back to your lab, for instance, to design better or more tailored communication activities, or to develop your products, keeping in mind the need of the people that are going to use it. I hope I responded to your questions.
Thank you so much. That was perfect.
Nancy, do you have a question? I think Nancy had a question here. Yeah, Nancy. I thought you had a question, Nancy.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe. I have one question. So like, why did you decide to do all this work on science communication? Like, why do you think it's important?
So I'll be fully honest with you. I started becoming a science communicator because of a failure. I'll tell you this story briefly. I was doing my PhD at the University of Amsterdam. I was a molecular biologist. My PhD was about doing genetic engineering on microalgae, basically the bacteria who invented photosynthesis. And I was genetically modifying it to produce green gasoline. So when I started that project, to me, I felt that I could have a real positive impact in the world. And that was the reason I went on to do that project. Then after a couple of years of research, I realized that the metabolism of that bacteria has some limits. So you can do it in principle, but basically you cannot scale it industrially. And my work was funded by European project where the only focus was to scale it industrially. So I got caught up in a very terrible situation because I wanted to switch the topic because the bacteria were accumulating an incredible amount of mutations and I wanted to understand why and where. But my professor at the time did not want that. He basically said, you are paid to scale it industrially, and this is the only thing you are going to do. So I end up with this really bad culprit. And at the beginning of the last year of my PhD, I decided to drop, to leave my PhD. I mean, being a scientist was literally the dream of my life. When I started my PhD, I think has been one of the most happy moments in my life. I was abroad, I was at a prestigious university, I was doing the science that had an impact on society. And then at the beginning of the last year of my PhD, I was depressed. I was not able to pursue my scientific interest. I saw no way out. And I saw that at least I had, if I wanted to continue, probably 2 more years that could have become 6 or 7 years of PhD in that terrible condition. So I decided that that thing was having a toll on my body and on my mind. And that was a really painful decision to me, and it took me years to really pass through that, to leave science, to step out and think about what to do next. And I started doing science communication because when thinking, okay, what do I do next? because I ended up being in Amsterdam without a job and had to reinvent my life. And I thought, okay, one of the fixed point in my life is science. I want to have science in my life. It's just so important to me. So how do I stay close to science but not get burned, as it happened during my PhD? So I realized that I remember that one of the very few things that my professor said to me that were really nice at the first year assessment, he said, "Yeah, he's so with experiment, but he's a great communicator." So I remember about that, and I said, "Yeah, I can communicate science because actually I've been doing science communication activities without realizing it so many times, and to me, it didn't felt like a job. I mean, to me, it felt like I can do it for fun. Like I'm happy if people pay me to do that, but I will do that for free too." And then I realized also the impact of science communication because I mean it was already there, but I didn't thought about it. When I was in that moment that I had to reinvent myself, I thought about science communication and I realized that actually there were a lot of people that I was telling them about my researches or other people researches. And a few days later, they were texting me on WhatsApp or sending me emails asking questions. Like, yeah, I thought what you tell me, but yeah, now I have this question. How does it work? And then I realized that it was not only about knowledge, it was about curiosity. And it's very difficult to instill curiosity in people. And to me, it was incredibly rewarding when that happened. So that is the reason for why I then became science communicator. Then, of course, I went to study. I studied 2 years science communication at the International School for Advanced Studies in Trieste. I actually wanted to go to the USA, but it just cost too much. It was out of scale for me. So I found a closer experience in Italy that I could have. In Trieste, there is the oldest master in science communication in Europe. And to me, has been one of the greatest experience in my life. And yeah, then I went to study on science communication for 2 years. I made a research thesis on science communication. And then I started working and like a lot of things like uh, I've never really believed the sentence that says "do what you love and you're not going to work a day in your life." But somehow I have to say that is true because since then a lot of things have happened in my life, like this one, because I would never have expected to be having a talk for a group at the University of Toronto here from my city in Italy. And this is one of the things that happened out of nowhere. So I was doing my stuff and then out of nowhere came this incredible experience. And I think because I'm having incredible fun by doing it.
Thank you
Thank you.
so
So I have a quick question. I have a question. Go, Michael. I'm really touched. Thank you so much for that great question. And it's just always clear that you may go through school, what you studied may not end up being what you're doing, but what you picked along the way could be what you're doing. And it's not that the time you spend in school is wasted. It's just that you discover yourself. You may have another angle, but you're so good at something, you discover yourself as you move towards that. And I really love this lived experience, this type of stories, because it teach other people to say, well, at that point, you could be like, everything is gone. You will completely start drinking alcohol, just completely ruin your life. No, but you reflect it and look at certain things along your way that got you really excited. And you pivot towards that. And look at where you are now, my girlfriend, one of the greatest journalists in the world. I have a question. As we were talking, I always think about our students a lot. And one thing I tell students when they join the lab is about building your CV, defining who you are. Because if you don't call yourself a name, then you allow people to choose a name for you. And that's the same way when you're trying to define who you're going to be, the type of job you're going to do, so that employers out there can, if they're looking for somebody, they already know you, because it's always difficult. People submit CV, thousands of people submit their CV, and it becomes very difficult to pick from. But if your name is already known out there around a particular topic, around where you define who you are, then people know, oh, I always see this person talk about this. Now, your CV will become a name that's familiar to them. My question to you is, for a student as an undergrad first year, just starting to define who they are with their science. For instance, I start and I said, I want to be known for agentic AI because I want to be involved in the transition from generative AI towards agentic and towards human-like AI. And I want to be known within this firm as one of the leaders within this area, even though I'm just starting. Should they start using social media to give different section of their work or what they're excited about, or where do they start from at that particular level, given that they're thinking of defining themselves, building their CV, and giving a name to them? I'm going to move to my second question, and that one is just some tips as to how students can start defining themselves. You baptize yourself with a name. How do you start that as a student building your CV? The second one is, if I'm passionate about community, to give back, you brought the idea of giving back to the communities. And you did talk about your parents being here to listen to you because you were giving a talk. Now, if you start a podcast as a university, some of the communities you're working with may already be on board. But how do you ensure that you have an immediate issue that you're passionate about? This issue has been funded by communities. You want to give it back to them to be able to help them out. For instance, you could help them on starting pivoting as AI is coming, or organizations to start automating certain things. How do you reach them? Because most of the time when you try reaching out to them, you end up reaching out to your colleagues instead of the people that really matter. How do you really get to them with your podcast? Then the third point is, if I have a podcast, and there's a lot of questions here, someone will send you via email because I have a lot of questions in my head. If I have a podcast and I want it to be targeted, which means I have a particular message every week or every month I want to send out. You have really encouraged making them shorter. But is it better I bring experts or I target my message myself and just send it out there, or I bring experts to talk about that as a scientist, not as a journalist?
So I will go point by point. So the first point was about students defining an identity.
Yeah.
I think it is relevant, although that identity has never to become a cage, because then it's a double-edged sword. So always think that your identity is evolving. So if you build an identity, it's very good for you to do it. So I think that the suggestion from Professor Kong is very relevant, but still never perceive it like a cage. It can evolve. You are a person. Persons are always evolving, even in the last day of their life. So in this sense, I think it can be worked, and especially as when you don't have that many experience at the first years as an undergrad. What I would suggest as an exercise, and it's something that if I think back, I would have liked to be thinking about it years ago, is instead of talking about your research, talk about your field. So if you go on social media, talk about your field, and that is important, first of all, for you. I mean, it helps to define yourself towards the public you might have on social media, but especially it helps you because if you talk about your field, if you describe your field, you learn about it. And that can be helpful for you in your research. So I've been, of course, studying for my field when I started, but it was not structured. It was just, I see this paper, okay, I read it. Then I see another paper, it's from 10 years earlier. I read it as well, like it's the same thing. While if you tell this thing to someone else, you are sort of forced to structure your learning and what you say. And I think this can be helpful. It's something that I didn't do at the time, and I wish I did. So, and for the first question about the student. The second question about the podcast. So if you want to target people on podcasts, the first thing that can help, and I believe they exist in for Canada, normally there are statistics that tells you which are the typical publics you may find on podcasts. So, and this depends from country by country. As for instance, in Italy, older people normally do not listen to podcasts very much. In Italy, we are very like not so much prone to new technologies. So you may have few of them that listen podcasts, but not very. So podcasts are mainly youth generation thing. So if you want to target youth generation, podcast is a very good way. Then another way, and that can I think this connects to the third question as well. When you are on a podcast, I always suggest, especially if you don't have big experience, to have more voices. And to help you target a certain public, you can have that public in your podcast. Why not? So if you want to target, let's say, young mothers who are probably afraid of the health of their children, you can have an episode where you invite a young mother in your podcast and you discuss with her. She can ask you questions. That also helps because that young mother is the best advertisement you can have, because then she will tell to all her friends on her social media. So it's not just you on social media saying, look, I have a new podcast episode. It's also her that will say to all her friends and peers, oh, look, I've been hosted in a podcast. And then you can open up a door towards a new public. So if there is a public that you don't know how to reach, one of the best things you can do is to host that public in your format, because then you start to open a way, a path toward that public. I don't know if I missed anything.
I think you answered them correctly, though, because I was thinking about it, and we're thinking about communities, right? If you bring mothers from the communities to start giving you their concerns or some of the things, then you bring another expert who's an AI expert who will be actually answering that. Then you have two voices talking there, and I think this is a very good way to go about it, actually. And thank you so much for the advice to the students about the moment you start your career, focus on the subject area and be passionate about that, talking about it on your social media. I think I like that idea. Then that way people start relating you to that. If something ever happened, I love that. And you get more passionate, and then you get connected to other people in the area, and that's actually increase your enthusiasm towards that. I really love this.
Thank you very much. And also one more thing that can help for the podcast as well that I missed before is, but this is a little more difficult, this needs a little more study to it, is to provide storytelling. Stories are the most powerful thing you can have to connect to people. So you can connect, you can tell a story about, for instance, a case where there is like one person who has been treated in a hospital and AI has been used. So stories, never underestimate the power of story. They are very, very powerful. It needs a bit of study and tweaking about how to like write and tell a nice story, but they're very powerful too. And for instance, if I would think about a podcast, then you may think of alternating storytelling of real life stories that you happen to know with other episodes where there are more people speaking.
David, I need to pay and console you all the time, man. You are the best. We still need you back. Really, you are very good. Kind of like you're the type of guy we would need to consult in terms of students building their CV, in terms of reaching the communities that matter to us. We care so much about having our knowledge being translated to communities, and at the same time trying to address their concern within this era of AI. Because there's a lot of fear within communities, a lot of fear when I go to community health centers and I talk to them. I just come in this morning where I was discussing with my dean about automation process that we're focusing on at the moment. And the dean concern was about the town hall meeting that he had where everybody's worried that they will lose their job and why not. And that's a great concern, but if we start looking at how we pivot within communities and discussing, it's not like, oh, they just will wipe and why not. That's very, very vital. Listening to those concerns from community members and trying to provide temporary solutions is great. I think that's the way within this era we need to have that conversation. And so having you kind of help us be able to take that message to our community partners will be very helpful to us. And at the same time, helping our students build their CV.
If I may,
Yeah.
yes, please. Thank you, David. I was curious. We have a team in Ethiopia. I think, who would really love to hear from you talking about such things because it's really important. We are running multiple programs back in Ethiopia, and I see this science communication as one of the limitations because people are doing some really amazing things, but they are not communicating. So I don't know if it is like too much. Can you like arrange your time and also give the same talk to our audience in Ethiopia whenever possible? Shall I reach out to you regarding that?
Yes, please. Again, as I said before, to me, this is a big honor to do that. I'm very, very happy to do this kind of activities. So if there are any opportunities, if there is anyone else that you feel that the words of this fool guy from Italy can be of any help or entertainment, then I would really love to do so. So please go on.
And AI for paper.
And
Sorry.
AI for paper, now we are expanding.
Yeah.
So the whole global south can be also like a good audience.
So-
We have a big group
Yeah.
called AI for PEP that Professor Kong runs. I think it's a good idea to invite him to there.
He's very talented and has a lot of ideas. And I like the fact that science is not finished until it's communicated.
Yes.
You're not finished at science unless you can communicate it effectively. And to who? The audience matter and how you choose your audience. I like when you said, when you ask people who is their audience, say the public, then it means that they have not even considered their audience. I really love the way you put, because over the time, I always thought of that way, the public, but who is that public? When you boil down, you realize that no, you want a particular fraction of the public actually at that particular moment. Yeah, I think we need to do more with this guy. I like this guy.
I'll reach out to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Stand here with David. I have a picture before you run up.
All right.
Yes, please, David, stay there. We just want to have a picture with you.
Selfie.
Okay, let me get a picture. Let me get somebody quickly. No, I want you on the picture. Everyone, please.
And please send it to me later.
Start to decide. Start. Good. So where are your family? You said they are all watching you.
Sorry?
Where are your family? Like you said, they are watching you, or they are on this call.
Yeah.
Okay.
My parents.
Yeah.
Ok. Wait, I'll tell them. Papà, accendi la telecamera che ci fanno una foto.
Okay, how are we going to do them?
Okay. Only the view can be. I think you can't control it. Okay.
Unfortunately,
You can see. So okay.
I text them. I
Alright.
think I don't know if they have the right to turn on the camera.
Yeah. So the host is not here, so yeah, for now you just leave it.
I know it's fine. It's fine.
Come to this side. So when Jude comes, everyone will be on this side. Come to this side.
No, I don't know.
Come to this side. Come to this side. But Jude went to there somewhere, right?
I got somebody. Listen, so I got an amazing science communicator. Take us a picture. Vanessa, can we use your phone? Where's the Vanessa? Okay. My good friend. So everyone should just come here. Everyone. How do we start? Everyone should just come. I think somebody can go exactly. Let's everyone come here.
Nancy, let me stand to your eye.
Yeah.
Can some people just stand down?
No, she can.
Oh, okay. I can go like this.
Yeah,
Here my parents. I can see them.
Oh yeah. But we can't see them here on the video. It's okay.
Can you? Is there a way to bring your parents in?
Because no, we are not controlling the call. It's like
You can see them.
Who's controlling okay, let's see. Who is controlling the call?
No, he's the one. He's the one controlling.
Oh, David is the one controlling the call.
David, yeah.
David, can you help on this?
Okay.
Can make them visible on the screen, David?
Okay.
Yes, David.
You see that?
Yes,
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 this is
great.
fine.
Nice.
Ora fa una foto.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay.
Yeah. 1, 2.
What happened? Something is happening. Wait, something happened. Let me see this.
Yeah, all right. Okay, is everyone in? Come
Go
see-
closer.
see- yeah.
Do you want to go?
Oh.
All right.
Okay.
I think the screen.
Who is touching the screen?
1, 2, 3. Another one.
Cheese.
Cheese.
Thank you.
Okay, I think it's good.
All right.
Thank you so much, David. Please thank your parents for us. Thank you so much, David. I will be in touch with you. I will really appreciate the time you took to prepare this and for coming to share this with us. The advice you gave us and the students is amazing. I think the students will be reaching out to you once they get the slides and get your email.
Yes, of course, I will share the slides. Let me know about Ethiopia. I wish you all a great day, a great time, and each one of you feel free to get in touch at any moment.
Thank you so much, my
so
God. I really appreciate it. This guy has so much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Arrivederci.
Ciao, arrivederci.
Roberto, ora sai che ha fatto.